the Quinn Marr Show.
This show is brought to you by Bing Pot Trivia. How many times have you been to a trivia night where it just felt like somebody reading questions? Well, Bing Pot Trivia prides themselves on bringing high-energy, dynamic hosts to every event. The show leans heavily on visual elements. Their questions are designed to make you laugh or roll your eyes, while also challenging your knowledge on pop culture, high school science, culinary arts, and everything in between. Their typical show runs 5 rounds, including a photo round, general knowledge on pop culture, riffs on different game shows, absurd 50-50 questions, and a super sweet music round. Check out bingpottrivia.com today to book your trivia night. Again, that is at bingpottrivia.com. Tell my boy Danny that your friend Quinn sent you. All right, let's get on with the show. My next guest was part of one of the biggest movies of the 2010s, playing the spunky yet violent security guard in Warner Brothers' Project X. He's been part of some horror stories and thankfully Saved by the Bell, as well as runs his own media company. It is my pleasure to welcome the Quinn Marr Show, Brady Hender. Brady, what's going on?
Quinn, thank you so much for having me, dude. That was an awesome intro, dude. I'll take it. Thank you.
Hey, I appreciate it. And I appreciate you coming on here. It means a lot. Just to kind of start, I saw that you grew up in Houston, Texas. So I want to know, like, what was like a young Brady like as a kid? Like, were you into sports? Were you into music, movies? Like, what was like your thing?
Man, as a kid, I was into Yu-Gi-Oh! Actually, and that was the first thing that came to my head was like the playing cards, dude. I was so big into Yu-Gi-Oh! Like back in Texas as a kid, I had actually gone to like 2 small little tournament things. That was just like
no way. Did you have the deck thing where you hold?
I had the arm thing, dude. I bought it, dude. I was like,
no way,
dude. It was sick.
I see people on TikTok sometimes, like it's these 2 constant people I always see. They'll be in battles like on live, and they'll have that deck thing, and it cracks me up every time because I was never really into Yu-Gi-Oh, so I don't see it the same way as like maybe someone like you who was, but like
you know it.
It fucking cracks me up when I just see like the huge deck, and these guys are easily that I was watching 30s at least, and like sure they're like, all right, now I'm gonna play my blah blah, and then like they'll play the card.
I know some people are so into it.
That's
like
so funny.
Gathering or whatever, but that's kind of like what I was into as a kid. I didn't do a lot of sports. I just kind of like it was very normal kid life, honestly. Like watched TV, played card games with my friends, hung out, did sleepovers, played video games. You know, like really nothing crazy. And that's kind of just my basic childhood.
Were you into Pokemon?
I was into Pokemon. Like I had Pokemon cards too, and same thing. Me and my buddy would play. But I had some of the games. I actually had Pokemon Red and Gold. For the I think it was the Game Boy.
Yep.
So I was into those types of things. I liked video games. I was just honestly a pretty normal kid. I feel like
just kind of like did everything.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. I just like hang out. Go to a movie and go bowling. It was just normal.
Yeah, interesting.
Honestly.
Do you have siblings?
I do. I have a younger sister and a younger brother. My younger sister actually is also an actress. She's out here in Los Angeles with me. My younger brother pursued it a little bit. Yeah. He loves it, but he's just also been very like family man. So because we had moved out here, and when I had turned 18, same with my sister. My mom had moved back, so she was like, if you guys want to live in LA, you got to figure it out, and we did. So now it's just me and my sister out here, and the rest of my family's still back in Texas.
Interesting. Okay, what did your parents do as when you were a kid, or do now? Same thing?
No, I mean, so here's how I'll get into it. I'll get into how I got into acting, I guess. Mm-hmm. My mom was just she worked for I can't remember what it's called. It was basically like Child Protective Services in Texas.
Oh.
It was like she was a therapist, and she would help, like these kids transition from whatever bad household they might have been in to maybe their new foster one. That was her thing. And actually, I mean, like normal American marriages, not everyone lasts. That's the statistic. So my parents had actually gotten divorced, and when they did, that's when my mom was like, you know what, big life change. I'm divorced. I wonder, let's see what the kids want to do. So she actually was on Craigslist just typing in like student films or something. And I think one came up for like my age. At the time I was only about 5. She told me, she was like, hey, do you want to try this? And I said, yeah, let's give it a shot. And throughout the course of their divorce, and then finally their divorce happened, I had done a couple things in Texas, like small little commercials, like for local food places and grocery stores. And, they divorced, and my mom was like, you know what, let's go out to LA. Let's take your sister, your brother, and we're just going to do us and see what we can do. And that's how we got out here. And then ever since then, my mom, she was into therapy, but then for like the first 3 years we lived out here, she was kind of a momager. She pulled up a Kris Jenner, you know?
No way.
So I mean, I owe a lot to my mom, obviously. I was also a kid. I didn't know I wasn't doing anything. I was a kid. You know?
Right, fair.
So my mom was able to, you know, get us agents, managers, and really get us kickstarted out here and start our little career, I guess.
That's sick. I want to go back for a second because I actually, and you're being modest about it. You starred in this film, in this independent film. No, that's what I read. It said you were the lead.
It wasn't. I mean, compared to Hollywood movies, it wasn't a huge movie, you know.
Okay, but how many 5-year-olds are leads in movies?
Not that many.
Right, exactly.
I guess. And it was really fun. I remember, like, gosh, I have this one like memory where I had to laugh. It was, I can't remember the name of the project now, but I remember I had to laugh, and my mom had to be like tickling me and and I was like, hang on, mom, I don't think I need this. Let me just laugh naturally. And when I did that, they were like, oh my God, that was the one. Like, that's the one. You're like, that one was natural. They're like, wow, you're good. And I mean, as a 5-year-old, you know, you're just getting all this praise just being a 5-year-old anyway, no matter what you do, you know, oh, the painting was so good. So, you know, when you hear stuff, you're like, oh man, maybe, you know, so that, I think that was the seed that kind of got planted for me.
That's so interesting that, like, before your mom found this thing on Craigslist, there was no desire in your mind as a kid that, like, you wanted to act. Interesting. That's such a cool way to like do it. You know what I mean?
Completely by random, honestly. Like, she was just like, hey, you want to try this? I tried it, and then I liked it. She was like, do you like it? Like, my mom, she was also never pressuring. She was so easy about it. She was always like, do you want to? Like, when we were going to move to LA, like I said, we had already done a couple things, and she was like, are you guys sure you want to do this? Because, like, I'm in for it if you kids are. And we're like, yeah, mom. So,
right.
So that's how we did it.
What other projects were you in Texas? And were you like doing like school performances too, or was it just kind of like outside of school?
Honestly, just outside of school. We probably had like a small stage, like, and I was really only in elementary school, out in Texas, but I didn't do a lot. I wasn't performative in school. I didn't do any theater stuff. I still have not really barely done any theater. Maybe I did myself a disservice because I've heard a lot of great things about how theater acting can, you know, translate, but I didn't really start with anything crazy there. My mom was just kind of like, hey, you want to try it? And then I did some stuff for like, there's a cafeteria type place called Luby's out there. I just did a commercial for them. There's a grocer called Fiesta, Texas. Did a commercial for them. And I did a small couple like independent films out there that gave me a couple credits and a little more experience behind the camera. And then my biggest one, actually, this is I think what kind of like also led us to be in LA. I booked a small role playing young Daniel Craig in the movie Infamous. Mm-hmm. Sorry for my cat. They might. Yeah. I booked a role in Infamous about the Truman Capote story, and that was like that was the Hollywood movie because it was Sandra Bullock, Daniel Craig, Sigourney Weaver, Toby Jones, like big star cast. And so that was right around when I was 8, and I think that was kind of the catalyst to be like, we got a belt. Should we take the belt and, you know, go to heavyweight now?
Right. See, maybe it's my like being naive and being like a Canadian, not knowing like really how the industry works in the States. But is there like is there like a big like entertainment industry in Texas?
You know what? Decently big, especially over the last like 15 years. Los Angeles in general has just gotten expensive to shoot in. So a lot of studios and projects have like tried to, you know, see where else they can go. Some actually even go to Canada and they go to Vancouver.
Vancouver's a big one, yeah.
But Atlanta here in America, Atlanta's big, and Houston has its own little niche thing. Same as like every pocket, you know, like maybe Austin, I think, has an okay little local acting scene. But it really wasn't huge. Like Atlanta, I can't remember if Atlanta was big at the time or not, but it was mostly just, you know, LA and New York for like theater stuff.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, I do hear a lot about Vancouver because I live in Ontario, but I hear about like Vancouver like being big. Like I know like Deadpool is one of the biggest ones they did like in the last few years. I think it was the first Deadpool, maybe the second as well. But like I don't know why it's the only one I can think of off the top of my head. There are more big ones.
No, you're right. But
like it's interesting where they pick. I guess it's obviously a money thing for one. And with Texas, it's like the weather. It's like you wouldn't 100% know if they're shooting in LA versus if they're shooting in Texas, right?
No, and I can't remember why. They might have even, some of that stuff might have been on location, which is why they picked Texas and why they may be casted locally. Because
Right.
you know what? That's funny. You actually just kind of put a little light bulb, and I was like, why exactly did I get that there? And I think that was why. I think that's because they were doing a little bit of local casting, and that's where I was, and they were shooting there. They're like, oh, well, why get someone from LA? Let's see what's out there. And then I guess that's how I got it. But
Right.
it's not a huge industry like LA.
No, yeah. Obviously, I know like you were little, like when you were acting in Texas. But do you remember like your friends ever thinking like, this is weird? Like this guy's going to auditions after school, and we're going to like football practice.
A little bit. I mean, I really had like two best friends that were like, they knew what I was trying to do, and like they were okay with it. Not okay with it, but they understood, I guess I should say. They were like, he's doing his own thing, I guess, so we'll let him do it. But it was never like that weird for me. I didn't, honestly, even like throughout high school, I didn't really realize that it kind of still felt normal to me, honestly, acting. Like it just, like that was my extracurricular activity. You guys are playing basketball games, I'm going to auditions. That was just normal for me. But what's funny? I actually remember going back to Infamous, and my friends. That was my first time I had like gotten paid like a decent amount of money, especially as a kid. And I think it was like $2,000 they had sent a check.
How old were you?
I was 8 years old.
That's not bad.
That's not no.
No, that's pretty good.
It's pretty good, but it gets kind of bad on my end because I was thinking, this is so cool. I got money. So I remember seeing the check because it had my name on it. I was like, well, it's mine. I ended up taking it to school, being like, hey, guys, look at this. My mom got mad at me later. She's like, Brady, we haven't even cashed that check yet. That could have been bad.
Oh,
I'm like, I didn't know. I was proud. I was like, dude, I got money.
Yeah, exactly. It's so funny. Hey, one slip up, you drop it, it blows away. It lands in the mud. It gets ripped. Anything could have happened. Jeez.
I know. My mom was kind of like, oh, that's a lot of, especially, man, in what was that? Probably like 2004 or something. It's like, that's a little bit of money,
Jeez. I'd take $2,000 now, just like in general, being,
yes,
being 27, right?
Dude, 2000, put it in crypto,
Seriously, years. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So what were you saying that was like the ultimate decision that your mom like decided, you know what, let's just pack up and go to LA?
I think it was like a combination of two factors. So I had kind of started acting, and then I had younger siblings who they kind of like saw, oh man, like, I guess not in a bad way, but they were like, man, Brady's getting a lot of attention from our mom because she's taking me to auditions, tuning me all this. So they're like, we want some of mom's attention. We're gonna act too. So they all kind of got into it as well. And I think all three of us kind of wanting to do it. The mix of like, my parents had divorced and my mom was like, new chapter, let's open up a new book. And I had just done Infamous. And wow, sorry, I haven't even thought about this a lot. You're good. For so many things. Because I remember actually for what happened after Infamous, I had an agent. I cannot remember her name. Oh, it was, I don't remember her name, but
really remember when this is over.
No, I remember the agency. It was A+ Actors, and she knew a manager out in LA named, I guess I can name it. It's not a name. Her name was Myrna Lieberman, and she was a talent manager out here for young adults getting into the industry. And that I think might have been the biggest thing, along with all those other factors. But our agent in Texas was like, hey, I have this connect. They're in Hollywood. You just did a movie with Brady. They're interested in meeting. Like, you guys should go out there and live for 3 months or 6 months and sublet. This was when pilot season or whatever was like a big thing here. Yep. And I think that last thing was like, all right, we're doing it. Like, we have a connect. Like, otherwise, if we didn't go into complete darkness. We had one person there who we knew like might rep us and like maybe it'll work out, maybe not. But like we kind of took a little bit of a leap of faith, or my mom did, and I mean, it's hard to say, and everything works out the way it was meant to. So I think what happened was how it needed to happen. You
got to give props to the manager in Texas. The fact that they're like, you know what, we'll let you go. I know you're gonna do so.
Yes.
Like, I'm not gonna be the one to make money with you, but you can go there. So
no,
give big props to them.
You know what? No, it was extremely, I guess, humble. Maybe humble's not the right word, but it was very thoughtful of them. You know, they weren't thinking about themselves. They were thinking about, man, maybe this kid can do something. Let's, get him out there, see what he can do. So
Yeah.
I had someone in my corner, and looking back, wow, I was really blessed and grateful, honestly.
Yeah. Obviously, there's differences between the industry for LA versus Texas, like we we're just talking about. But like, what was like one of the biggest things you noticed once you made that move? And how old were you again when you moved there?
I was like, well, so we had for the first 2-3 years, I was about 8 or 9, and we had subletted, so we'd stay there for like 3 to 6 months, come back to Texas for like 2 months while there was nothing going on in the summer, go back for 3 months, and like it was on and off. We would sublet.
It'd be kind of fun doing it like that.
It was actually kind of fun. I mean, yes and no, because I was just getting into middle school. So it was actually hard for me to have a solid set of friends, because I was in a couple different middle schools just because we would like move closer to, one time we were like in LA, and then another time we were in the Valley, and then another time we were on the West Side. And I was like, I met people and it was fun, but it was like not the strongest of friendships, just because, you're moving around, you don't get to know people as much. So it's, it wasn't the best for friendships, but I was also fun with it. I was like, hey, new places, new things. It's okay. And I adapted to it. It didn't really affect me that much, I don't think.
So yeah, what were like the biggest differences you noticed? I know you were a kid and everything, but like I feel like you would have been at the age that you would have noticed. You acted enough in Texas that once you got to LA, you're like, oh, okay, this is different.
Yeah, I mean, wow, no, much different. It was like so much more like Hollywood, I guess you could say. Like even the casting offices, like there, it's just kind of like, I don't know, maybe an office, and it just doesn't look too done up. Here, I mean, like even for commercial castings, they have a whole office. It's called like 200 South La Brea, and they're like 8 casting rooms and all these casting director people, and there's like 30 actors in there, and everyone's reading lines, and it's like, honestly, it is a little overwhelming. Like even with, I think, some of the sitcom shows I did, you'd like audition on the lot, and when you go into these studios, you're like walking into Paramount, or you're walking into Sunset Gower, and you get a little bit of awe. You're like, wow, those are the studios that they shot that in. And you're walking past people's names, and you're like, oh, this is a little later, but I was like, that's Bryan Cranston's parking spot. Like, oh, that's Johnny Depp's part. It's just like you see these things, and you're like, wow, it kind of gives you a whole other level. So it was different. It was a little more I guess, kind of like, wow, it's got that Hollywood feel kind of.
It's like minor leagues to major leagues. Like there was that step up, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And almost too, like something I noticed and that we had talked about with my family is like some people were cutthroat, like some families, even like there were stage moms. That is a real thing. Like some of these kids too were like, whatever their mom does, like their mom's sitting in there coaching them, like, do this, and like you're watching, just kind of like, is that healthy? I don't know. Like my mom never did that. I just go and do my thing. I don't know. And seeing some of that is kind of like, it put a weird pressure on me a little bit too, because I was like, why are they so intense? Like, should I get this intense? And I think as a kid, like that was kind of always in the back of my mind, just because it was a lot. It's hard to get so comfortable and natural with like competition and in career.
I think honestly though, like, I mean, not knowing you personally, but I think that helped you in the long run that your mom wasn't like that, because you didn't have like that. I don't know. I feel like a lot of actors that had that aren't doing it now. You know what I mean? Or just like they had batshit happen to them. You know what I mean? Like I just think not having that added pressure might have helped you in the long run. Being from Texas, not growing up in the LA lifestyle from like firstborn into like being a teenager and acting. So I think you were lucky in that aspect.
Yeah, you know what? I definitely was. I mean, I have a great mom. She's very supportive, and she was never pressuring. And I think that's like, when you force someone to do something, it's kind of like helicopter parents. If they're like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do that, you're like, well, now I kind of want to.
Exactly.
So I think having that freedom to be like, do what you want, and especially when I turned 18, she was like, I'm moving back. If you want to stay, you got to figure it out. And I was like, all right, I will.
Yeah. Were there kids that you see on auditions like just thought they were the shit, like walking with sunglasses on, fucking 3 assistants, all that kind of stuff?
So no assistants, and I don't want to name drop anyone because it's whatever, but like I was auditioning with like a lot of the stars who are my age, like right now, I feel like from like 24 to 30.
Okay.
A lot of the people who or who you've seen in the last 4 years of TV, I would audition with all of them. I knew a lot of them. There's some people who like oh, they knew me so well. And then so my sister's also an actress, and she'd bump into people, and they'd be so they knew me well enough, and they'd say, oh yeah, what about your brother? What was his name? And they'd mess. Like, dude, you guys were just, it's so, some people are so fake. They're, oh yeah, let's get my number, let's link up. And then they go do this awesome project, and, you never hear from again. So yeah, some people were, a little foo-foo, and it is what it is. Some people, yeah, they had their noses up here, and as Hollywood as kids, you just kind of gotta be like, yeah, whatever, you're not gonna not interact. And it's a little weird because we're kids, and as an adult, you're used to networking, and it's like, there's almost that expected layer of like superficiality, like, listen, we got to be professional, we got to be cordial. But it is a little weird as kids that we're like, kind of thrown into that, like, we got to fake like each other to all have this, persona that we're all super personable and fun and actors and da 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 da. And that's just how some people are. But
are there, like, you must watch like TV shows and movies now of like with the people that thought they're the shit and like are snooty now, but that like someone like me wouldn't know, but you'll see it like, that motherfucker. You know what I mean? Yeah.
It is what it is. I think it's only like that when the guy's like a rude person, because I also know a lot of very nice people in the industry who are working, and one, if they're a little bit of a jerk, whatever, but if they're a really talented actor, you can't really knock them. You're like, okay, you're bringing it, I get it, but you'd hope just as people, not even with acting, you just want everyone to be a nice person,
Go ahead.
No, I can't remember now. I was gonna just say something else about it, but I don't remember.
You're good. I'm not gonna ask you to name like any like the dicks or whatever in the industry, but like, who was someone that you would have like went to auditions with or like interacted with that are like big now that were like always just like a good person?
Okay.
I mean, you could name one of the dicks if you wanted. I wouldn't be opposed to it, but mainly I want to know about the good people.
No, I hear you. I mean, man, there's enough people in the industry who are bad, and it's like, I don't want to badmouth anyone. It's just those are the people. But I feel like nice people, honestly, there's not as many people, and maybe this attributes to that. There's not many people who I feel like were great that are like doing these amazing things now. Like one example, I guess, is like for Project X, like Thomas Mann, the main star. Like, I've seen him at so many like events just randomly out in public, and I'm always like, hey, what's up, Thomas? He's like, oh, Brady, what's up, man? He always remembers. Like, he's just an extremely nice guy. Same with like JB. Anyone else from that cast is amazing. But most of the people that I would audition with who are really nice and very down to earth, a lot of them actually aren't really. I think they got out of the business because it's so superficial and fake, and they were like, I'm too nice of a person to be dealing with all these types of people. And I was like, dude, I understand. Do whatever's best for your mental health.
That's fair. So while you were doing all these auditions and everything in LA, you said you were going to school, but did it ever turn into homeschooling, or were you always just in school?
No, it never turned into homeschooling for me, because my mom had actually asked me if I wanted to, but I was like, especially after doing all the subletting and moving back and forth, when we finally like landed here and lived here, I was like, I need friends. I want to do stuff. I still want to be a normal kid, So I would still go to school, and how we would do it like with auditions is, my mom would like take me out early and be like, he has a doctor's appointment or a dentist appointment. Or I'm like, oh, I'm not feeling good. And she'd pick me up. And by the end of it, the school, like, especially too, like when I had gotten Project X, then, people knew in the school, they're like, oh, he's an actor. And so they're like, oh, they got a little more lenient. They're like, we understand if you got to do what you got to do, go do it. Because I wasn't truant. I was getting all my classes. I was getting good grades. So they were like, yeah, we got to let you pursue, especially here in Los Angeles. They know tons of kids are doing this. They want to be lenient and let people pursue stuff.
That's true. It's like almost every kid in your grade was doing it, or in the school was doing it, right?
You know what? Honestly, yeah. And like, I went to an art school called Champs, and so many of the people there had like famous parents, and like, actors and directors and writers were all their parents. And so this kind of goes back to another thing where like a lot of those people who had connections in the industry are acting nowadays. And I won't say that they're not talented, because, they are. Obviously they wouldn't get the jobs, but it's it's a much easier way to get a job.
When you're a nepo baby, 100%.
Exactly.
100%. So I want to go into one of the best movies of all time. I watched it, I guess it would have been 13, what was that, 12 years ago? 12 years ago now.
Yep.
The first time I had seen this movie, my mom brought me and my cousin, and I would have been about 16, 15, so I wasn't old enough to see it. I don't think I must thought I gave her enough of a description of what the movie was, because looking back, she goes, I don't know why I brought you to this movie. So the movie, of course, is Project X, and yeah, that movie just fucking blew up. So I want to get into like you, because obviously you played Everett, one of the 2 security guards. But like, how did you hear about the movie? And then I want to hear like the audition process. Was there something that like was unique about this one compared to the other ones?
Yeah, something that's always unique, and I mean, I don't get this opportunity a lot. Some actors do, some actors don't. But like when you get to read, for like they call it like camera testing and screen testing, you get to see all the producers, all the other actors, and like it's not shooting, but it really gives you the best idea for chemistry. And I think that was like probably one of my favorite auditioning parts of it. But it was like the same, excuse me, same normal routine as like a normal audition. I went into the normal casting office, did it, got a call back, just met with like one producer, the casting director, and assistant. And then they finally were like, all right, let's bring you into the to the screen test. I was like, oh, cool. Like, I know that this is big news. This means we're getting close. And so I screen tested with Everett, and all the producers were in there. And like, I remember I was only like 11 or 12, and some of the words had cuss words. And I'd even posted about this on my Instagram. But I remember funny, like as a kid, I was like, is it okay if I cuss? And these are the guys who did The Hangover and the Project X. They're like, dude, say whatever the fuck you want to say.
Yeah,
You're an 11-year-old.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I guess
So
at this point there had been what 2 hangovers, and then this is a guy who's doing it, right? That's funny.
No, so they were wild, and they're like, dude, they wanted a wild kid, they're like, let's do it. And so I started, I let some F words fly, and I did it, and I actually didn't hear for a little bit, but I remember where I found out. And so it's okay if I go on a little bit of story here?
That's why I have you on here, please.
Okay. So I remember I was, this is when I started trying to get into skateboarding. I was like trying some different outlets, and I was at the North Hollywood skate park here in LA. And my mom, I was there actually with my really good friend, Colton Shires, who's also an actor. He's working in production right now. And we were both there, and my mom came up to me. She said, hey, Brady, I got some good news. They booked you for Project X. I said, what? That's awesome. But she said, but it wasn't the role you auditioned for. It wasn't Everett. I said, what? I'm like, you know what? That's fine. I got a role. This is awesome. I'm going to be in a cool movie. So I was actually originally cast as the high school party goers who roll up on the bikes and who crash the party.
Oh, those the little dickheads. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, the little dickheads.
Yes. No way.
And so I actually was originally cast as that role. I was, hey, a role's a role. I'm going to act. This is awesome. So I was still thrilled. And I remember getting to set first day. And I feel bad now looking back. I mean, whatever, the universe does what it does and life moves where it will. But there were 2 other, actors who had the role of Tyler and Everett. They were actually probably 3 years younger than we were at the time. So I would assume they were like 8 or 9, maybe 10 at the most.
Wow. That seemed really young for those parts.
Which was interesting because I know we screen tested and we did all that, but they chose them. I was like, okay, I'm not going to be like, I auditioned for that. Why should I be? Anyway, so we started the first day of acting, and I actually believe it was the scene where they're getting home in the minivan, and they have like the nunchucks, and and we're like, ninja. Tyler goes, ninjas are fucking pussies. So that was the first day of filming, was that scene that they were doing with the other kids. And they weren't able to get it. I don't know why they weren't able to get what they wanted. So they actually ended up, the kids, I don't think they could, it was maybe their lines. I can't remember exactly. It was a little foggy, but they ended up they said, all right, we're going to call it for the day. Let's wrap, everybody go home. So we were on our way home. We're driving home like, oh man, that was an interesting day. They call us, hey, how far are you guys? 5 minutes away. We just left. Come back here real quick. Just come back. Okay. Scott Budnick, the producer, comes up to me and my mom and says, all right, Brady, we want you to just like try and read these lines really quickly. We're going to take you in front of Todd. We're going to take you in front of Joel, but we're going to give you about 10 minutes right now. I'm going to kind of tell you how we want the characters to be for Tyler and Everett. Dude, my heart was like, okay, what am I doing, dude? I'm like, holy crap, this is kind of intense. I mean, I've never had a moment like this. And so I'm like, all right. So they give me 10 minutes. He's like, I want you to, do you know Steven Seagal? I'm like, no. He's like, okay, think of it. You're like a cop. You're like RoboCop. You're just like flat. You're all business, and that's, you're very robotic. I was like, okay. So like I took 10 minutes. I was like reading the lines, and like he was just kind of doing his thing, doing his emails over there. And I was like, okay, Scott, like I got the lines down. I think I'm ready. He's like, all right, let's go take you over to them. So then I met up with Tyler. We just did a couple things, or Nick. We did a couple things together to try and see like how the lines were going to go. Then he said, okay, we're going over to Todd and Joel. So there's so much pressure on us in the moment. I mean, there's pressure on the kids too, I guess, but there was so much pressure I felt at that moment of like, oh my God, I gotta hit these lines and do this and do that. And like, maybe this could be mine. And that's actually what ended up happening. We read the lines. They were like, all right, you're Tyler and Everett. It just happened like that. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I mean, I'm blessed. I'm grateful that it happened that way. I feel bad, for the other actors. Like, you'd never want that to happen. But everything happens the way it's supposed to happen in life anyway. So, I don't harp on it. But that single moment was like almost life-changing. It's crazy.
That's amazing. Now, I'm surprised that I'm assuming they didn't just use those two kids and have them as like what the roles you guys were going to be. Interesting.
They did not. They actually, I don't know why either, but they had completely cut those roles, or cut the kids who were in Tyler and Everett's roles originally. And then they hired two other high school kids, I guess, who were probably like, the backups. And another funny story, funny enough, one of the kids who was the other one, I don't know if you remember, he had the glasses.
Yeah, they both had curly hair or something, I'm pretty sure.
They did both have curly hair, but one of them had glasses, and his real name's Henry Michelson, and he's actually the stepbrother to one of my best friends now.
Whoa, what are the odds?
When we first met, he was like, wait, I was in Project X too. I was like, no way. And so, we were just like mind blown. Like, that's so weird. Small world. So.
Well, when you saw him, did you like, why do I know you from somewhere? I guess that happens a lot though.
A little bit. And you know what, honestly, we didn't really have I didn't have very many scenes with the other kids. Tyler, actually, they did some reshoots. There was a scene where like he's like, gets his baton on. He's like, I'm going to chase you through the house. And I think they're near the stairs. That was actually a reshoot, and that was added on later. But I didn't interact with the other kids too much. There was just like, they think that one day of filming where they rolled up. And that was the only time I ever like interacted with them or saw them.
Right, because at the point in the middle of the movie, you kind of leave the house party, right? So you're like patrolling the neighbor Rob's house. So yeah, you were away from like what was going on. So that's interesting. I never thought about it that way. Yeah. So there was not a lot, but there was a good chunk of you not interacting with everybody else and the party.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was so cool. Like I was like 13 at the time, and I was like, oh man, like I'm gonna get to hang out and do all this cool party stuff. But really, they were so careful actually, because me and Nick were minors. So like they really didn't even want us to be around the party scenes when they were partying and drinking. They really tried to isolate us. Just like they actually were pretty respectful about it. They're like, we don't want to, taint these kids' minds forever by, doing all this. And even I remember when because obviously there's nudity in the movie. They were going to film the nudity not on the same day. It was the same shooting schedule, but at a certain point they were like, all right, Brady, we cannot have any minors on set. So they had to literally, just for like safety purposes, they had to film me walking off set, getting in my car and leaving to like cover their asses, I guess, to be like, there was no minors on set. I know we had nudity, but like, I don't know why they did it. I just remember that too. Like,
wow.
But they were very respectful about it. They're like, we don't want to.
It makes sense. And it's funny you mentioned about age and stuff, because when I watched the movie, I remember the first time I watched it. Are you in 96?
Yeah, I was
okay. So we're the same age. So I remember watching the movie. Obviously, it would have been like maybe a year after you guys had filmed. I always remember thinking you and Nick were so much younger than me. Obviously, because they portrayed you guys as that much younger. So being one of like the youngest on set, take me through how like the dynamic worked with like the older cast members like Thomas or Jonathan or Oliver. Like, what was that like for you?
I mean, they were super awesome on set. Like, I think when they filmed, they were about like early 20s, so they were having a great time. And I think someone else who we actually interacted with a lot, surprisingly, was Kirby Blanton. I can't remember her name in the movie, actually.
Her name's Kirby.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. They gave a lot of people the same names. Thank you.
I'm gonna ask you about that after too. Yeah.
But we actually we chatted with her a lot, because we had a couple scenes and they were all so chill. They were just like, oh no, some of them were even telling us. I remember it was Thomas and Oliver. They were like, dude, you guys are going to be in high school in a movie. You guys are going to get so much. We were like, oh my God, dude. I remember that. And they were just so cool. They were supportive of us, dude. I mean, they were older though. And at the time we were only like, I think we were 12, 13 when we filmed, and they were already in their 20s. So, like, they're not going to hang out with us. We're not bros, but they were super awesome, really cool and really fun. And plus them three were like always kind of doing their thing. They were like a trio, and me and Nick would always kind of like bond together because we were the security guards.
Right. Yeah. So for you guys, like you were just talking about how like Thomas and them would always say like you guys are gonna get so much pussy and all this. Did any of you think that how the movie was gonna be as big as it was?
No idea. And honestly, it's gonna sound weird, but like even the years after it came out, I didn't really realize. Like I was still young. Like when the movie came out, I was like 14. Still naive. Like I didn't realize at the time how big it was and like how cool it was. Like it was also a little bit before social media blew up too. So I feel like that made a difference. Like it wasn't as like intense. Like if I think the movie came out now with social media, I'd be seeing so much more just like, see, that's just how social media is nowadays.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, what was the question?
You're talking about how big it ended up being.
Oh yeah. I really didn't know. Like I was in high school and I would go to like a couple high school parties, and like even at school people would be like, oh you were in Project X, and I was like, yeah, like I don't know, for some reason I didn't think that much of it, and like I guess it made me like popular in school, but it still didn't make me like that popular. I didn't think. I was just still like pretty normal kid. There were just people to me were just like, hey, that's the kid that was in Project X. Move on with their lives,
Right. When you'd go to parties and stuff, were there jokes about you being at a party, like the security guard thing? Was that ever like brought up?
Yeah, so I got a lot of DMs like the first 2 years when it came out of people being like, some people I knew, which I was kind of like, I don't know. To me, it almost, maybe I could have played into a little more, but at the time it felt a little degrading. I was like, I don't want to actually work security. Like, actually, that's a stupid job. I'm not actually going to do that. Like, and I get maybe, it was just for like the bit, like, yeah, I'm security and it's a bit, but like I had so many DMs of people being like, yo, I'm throwing a party. Could you be security? It would be hilarious. Da, 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 da. And I don't know. To me, I was just kind of like, it almost felt like a circus monkey clown. Like,
yeah,
oh, look at him. He was the security guard. Let's have him. I don't know. I actually personally didn't like it. Like maybe I could have played into it more, but at the time I was just kind of like, man, I'm Brady. I'm not Everett. I'm Brady.
Right. That's fair. No, that makes sense. I remember after the movie came out, how many people just in general around my area tried to throw Project X parties. Like some people would just like wait till their parents left, obviously like in the movie. Other people would go try to throw them at like abandoned houses and stuff. Like once that movie came out, it changed how people try to throw parties for a long time. Like at least in Canada, I don't know how it worked everywhere else. I'm sure it was even bigger, but that was just like, there was one girl in my school that threw a party like that, and she called it Project J because her name started with a J. And obviously, like, it didn't happen like in the movie, but it was like a pretty massive party. Like, they just wanted it to be like the movie. Did things like that happen around with like you?
Shoot, no. I know. Oh my gosh, you know what? I had even heard like they were actually a little scared that they were getting too much press, a bad press about all these people who were doing like these Project X parties, and like I think the studio was a little worried that like they might be on the hook for some of the things that happened because they're like, well, you inspired people and da 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 da. So I like, still great marketing, but I wonder if they could have done more with it. But myself, like, I knew there was all these tons of parties and big things. I lived in LA and I had only gone to like a couple of high school parties, honestly. Like, I wasn't crazy into that scene. But they weren't like Project X, it's a bunch of 16-year-olds who like, oh my God, guys, we got beer. Like,
yeah.
We're smoking weed for the first time. Oh my God. Like,
right.
It was not like any like pills and like jumping off roofs and cars going da, 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 da. It was just kind of like chill and all right, we're hanging out, and now it's 12 and some people are getting picked up by their parents. Like it was nothing crazy like Project
20 guys and 4 girls. Just like it never worked out the ratio properly for the guys.
No, never.
Yeah,
it was just
and
it was just like who else did you invite? Like who's this guy? That's your cousin who's like 19? What?
Yeah, exactly. Like it never worked out the way it did in the movie. When I was in high school, there was 2 movies I would watch before every single party I ever went to. Not that I went to that many, but it was always Superbad and Project X. They would just like amp me up for the party. Obviously, they would never be like the movie, but those
it's
were
a
just
nice pregame.
Literally me by myself in my room, getting ready to bring my 1 6-pack of Tall Boys that my dad had bought me or my older sister bought me, just fired up thinking it's going to be like The Hangover that night. You know what I mean?
Dude, I hear you. I mean, they really gave that sense of like, anyone can do this. Like whoever wants to throw a party, you can. You just got to, have the party mood and do it. And I think that, that's where a lot of people got this idea to be like, let's throw this crazy rager and all this. But even if you didn't get that rager, I think just like thinking like, oh man, this is like Project X, like that feeling of like, I'm free, I'm partying, I'm doing what I want, I'm a kid, was like really resonated with like so many people at that time.
No, it seriously, it did. We were talking about the name thing. Do you have any idea like why almost everyone was named their real name besides like you and Nick? Like Thomas, obviously, Costa, he mentions in the movie his name's Oliver. JB mentions his name's Jonathan. Alexis, Kirby. It's like Miles Teller, his full name. It was really odd to me why that happened. Do you have any insight on that?
You know what? I honestly wish I did. I don't personally. I don't know why we ended up being Tyler and Everett and why everyone else kept their like names. I know they wanted to keep it like real and, you know, maybe more believable, but it's like, it's still a movie and they're actors. So I don't know why they didn't do that. I might have even back in the day, like I might have also seen someone else like ask this question and maybe had an answer, but I myself just don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know.
And I was checking because I couldn't remember if that was Miles Teller's first thing. It was his second big thing. The first was Footloose. So that's why I thought if that maybe he had filmed them before. Maybe there was the filming. The release might have been different, but it was Footloose came out first, then Project X, which I was surprised about because the fact that they used his full name, people didn't get confused. Not that he was like the big actor he is now, but it's like not just Miles, he was Miles Teller, but he was an athlete, blah, 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 regular.
He wasn't the actor Miles
No,
Teller.
exactly. So it was, I don't know. It was really weird. I'd love the answer on that because that's always been an interesting thing to me.
I don't know, but you know what? I was actually going to ask, or not ask you, but I was going to like bring up, like, I didn't realize at the time either, like now, I mean, Miles Teller is, you know, A-list celebrity. He's huge.
Huge.
And at the time, like you just said Footloose, I was like, wait a second. Like I know Footloose, you know, J.K. Simmons. And I'm like, wow, like I didn't realize at the time Miles Teller was just in that. And I didn't even realize, I don't know, maybe these studios know, like they really know who might be a celebrity. Maybe he's got that A-list factor, you know?
Right.
Obviously. But like, I guess they saw that earlier, but I wish I knew at the time, like even Miles Teller, because I had met him on set one time, but I didn't realize he was like this.
Of course.
Going to be, I mean, he was just in a big movie, but I didn't realize he was going to then be this big actor.
Well, the Rolodex of movies he was in after that, it was like bang, 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 like all like bangers too. And it went like almost every single year at that point. It was crazy. Like right after that, I'm pretty sure he was in 21 and Over, like not that long after Spectacular Now. I can't think of any more on the top of my head, but like in those few, like right after Project X, he just had movie after movie after movie. The Divergent movies, I'm pretty sure he's in, right? So it's crazy. And no, I always did wonder how like almost everyone, literally besides you and Nick, had their real names.
I wish I knew, man. I don't know. Like I don't know how they came up with Tyler and Everett. Like I think I'm actually curious to wonder the script. I mean, in the script, you know, everyone's names, but like in the first drafts, I wonder if like JB, you know, like they were just like whoever guy one, guy, you know, I don't know how they landed on being like, no. And I wonder too, I don't remember if Jonathan went by JB or if he went by Jonathan. So like that's an interesting.
He in the movie. So in the movie he's JB, but as they're going, I just rewatched it, so I'm glad I remember this. As they're going door to door to tell the neighbors, hey, we're having a party, they try to make their name sound better and like more mature. So like Costa goes, oh, my name's Oliver, and then JB goes, my name's Jonathan. In case you guys need anything. So everyone's name were used at the time.
Interesting. Yeah. So they knew he was Jonathan, and I wonder if like. But I wonder, like, himself as a character, Jonathan. I wonder if, or himself as a person, Jonathan. I wonder if, like, if he was just Jonathan, or if before Project X he went as JB. You know, I don't know that either.
I know it's you don't see many, if any, movies do that.
I know, and I wonder if maybe that's like kind of a thing that added to the realism. Like when you look it up on IMDb, you're like, well, wait, that's really them, and especially maybe for people who like don't know the movie industry, when they see that, they're like. Think, wow, maybe that really was a real party because that's really their name.
Maybe that's why they're more so afraid of like being on the hook for like lawsuits and stuff. Because even at the beginning of the movie, it says like, we apologize to law enforcement, blah, blah. Like they give like a description saying like, hey, like basically this wasn't real. And we're sorry about this.
Exactly. Right. I know that I know getting a lot of heat. And I even talked to Jonathan about this, JB. And maybe it was just speculation or maybe he had some info, but he was like, no, dude, I talked to some people at Warner Brothers, and this was back in maybe 2016, 2017. He's like, yeah, like they got really scared from all that bad press. Like they didn't want to be on the hook. And he had speculated maybe that's why they didn't move forward faster with the potential another Project X2, just because they like had so much.
Yeah, no. I mean, it makes sense. Like, imagine that movie. You're talking about marketing and stuff. Like, if that movie was made now, maybe some of the things that were said in the movie, because when I was watching, I was like, "E." But the marketing of that movie could be nuts now. Like the TikToks, the Instagram, like, all of that. Like, there would be accounts for each character. Like, it would be nuts.
I think the same thing. I mean, I just said to my girlfriend the other day, and I mean, it doesn't matter, but it helps you get other jobs that are. And I said this even earlier in our interview. I said, if Project X came out today with social media, it would just be a different beast, you know?
So
like
different.
People would be one. The parties could go even worse now because now it's like everyone's posting parties on social media. Oh, here's the address. Here's the address. Here's the address.
Right.
Easy, way more chance to blow up a party.
Yeah.
And I think just the wildness of like there's TikToks, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Like there's so many things now that like would potentially blow it up even more.
It's funny that you mentioned it would be easier to have a bigger party now. I didn't even think about that because literally in the movie it was like, and it wasn't that long ago, but it was same time. Costas texting the entire school, or he's just walking around like the campus telling people,
inviting,
putting it up on the freaking Jumbotron. Yeah, like it would be so much easier to have like triple that amount now.
Oh my no! Well, you know what? There's two things. Not just triple. Like it also gives better chance to like. For the cops to come and like break the party down before it even happens, because they're like, I know how, you know, I've seen the social media stuff. People like warehouse party. Here's the address, or don't the address doesn't come out till an hour late or before and I just now with like how people are sharing stuff, like I could easily see like 100%. 1,000 people being like on a road like I'm trying to get to the party, you know.
Yeah, that's so true. I know you were talking about how like you and Nick obviously weren't around with like a lot of the, I guess the more fun stuff is a good way to put it, like the nudity and like where they would show drugs and alcohol and that stuff. I had read online like years ago, and like there's always the rumors that there was actually parties going on during that filming. Is that true?
I don't know. I personally could see it though, because I remember like again, they also tried to keep us a little bit away, but like I'd go to Crafty and I'd see them in the house kind of filming. And then I'd be like, oh, there's like 8 people over here like hanging out. And then there's like 8 people over here hanging out, all extras.
Right.
Because they had so many extras. I mean, oops, sorry, buddy. Because they had so many extras, they can't control everybody. Like there was only, I think, 1 AD too, like the assistant director who wrangled everyone, or second AD. So they didn't have enough people to wrangle all these people. So I didn't see it personally. Easily could have seen people just being like, hey man, like let's go smoke a little bit, or I got a little drink, and then we'll go really party. Because the extras like they really just told them to party. Like I remember they'd turn on the music, they'd be all right, everyone like hands up, jump around and dance, and like they'd just like film them for like 10 minutes, and then they'd be like, all right, we got all we needed, moving on. And it's like,
wow. So they would actually I'm assuming they actually had music like blasting like going on, because that'd be kind of awkward if it was silent. Yeah, okay.
Oh no, yeah, they were like playback, and like they weren't even like, it wasn't as faked as you think. Like they still were kind of like party, like do whatever you guys want, you know. Like a lot of this stuff I think was like some stuff just happened, and then they might have been like, oh, that was awesome, wait, we got to get that again real quick, and then they do it again. But it was like a lot of the stuff just kind of happened naturally. Right.
And that's probably where those rumors come from, that there were like a parties going on during it. And like there obviously there wasn't as many people as they say in the thing. I'm assuming like there wasn't 2,000 people, but like at the time, like there were a lot of people constantly around, right?
Oh my god, yeah. I think from my guess, there's probably like 200 extras, and that's just extras. That's not like, you know, all the crew and all the all the other people. So
yeah, I read somewhere that you had a pretty cool story about Kid Cudi, and the connection with Kid Cudi in the movie is "Pursuit of Happiness." Obviously, that was a big song, I think, beforehand, but then the remix blew up after Project X. There's still remixes of that remix going on now. So yeah, what was the story about you and Kid Cudi?
Dude, I mean, yeah, that song now is like people actually, they've told me, they're like, dude, that song has changed my life. They're like, "Pursuit of Happiness," especially the Stevie Aoki remix. They're like, no, like you don't understand, like that got me through so much. And I'm like, first off, I didn't. Oh, quick, actually, little thing, if you don't mind, because I just have another thing talking about this before we get into Kid Cudi. I'll talk about it quick. I remember Scott Budnick, when we were filming, he was always so cool with us. Like we'd call him Budnick, he'd call us by our last name. He'd be like, "Nervies, Hender, get over here." Like he was kind of like the cool, I don't know, kind of like a cool uncle kind of.
Yeah.
And he would tell us, he's like, hey, yeah, we're coming, because he knew we were young. He's like, yeah, we're coming up with like, we're trying to figure out what songs are cool. I'm going to send you guys a playlist of unreleased songs. We were like, what? Okay. And so I was like, please. Now, it wasn't any of these songs, but it is from a very popular person you definitely know. We got a lot of unreleased Skrillex songs. I actually don't even know if I'm allowed to say this or whatever now.
Whoa.
They're out now. The songs are out now. But I remember listening to them and I was like, wow, Skrillex was a potential artist to be in the movie. Not in the movie, but like have his songs in.
And he was huge then.
He was, I mean, he's still huge now.
I know, but like the EDM and like that kind of
dubstep.
stuff, like him and like Deadmau5 and that stuff, back then they were massive.
And I guess the studio knew that. So like they were toying with the idea of that. And at the time I actually was into EDM and dubstep. So I was like thinking I was so cool, dude. I was like, I really Skrillex. Like, you guys want to hear this? They're like, what is that? I'm like, you don't even know.
Yeah, you wouldn't know. It's not out yet.
So that was super cool. But then going back to Kid Cudi, like, yeah, that song was huge. And my experience with Kid Cudi, like, I really looked up to him. I mean, Day and Night was like one of my favorite songs growing up too. Especially the Crookers remixing a little EDM.
Exactly.
And it was the first premiere that I'd really ever been to. And we rented a limo. We were rolling up. You know, my mom rented it to roll up in style. It was a Rolls Royce, and she could tell I was getting a little nervous on the way over there because I knew I was gonna have to walk the red carpet. And she was like, "All right, I think you're old enough, Brady. You're 15. This limo has some whiskey. I'm gonna let you take a shot of whiskey." I was like, "Yeah, Mom, I've never done that before."
yeah, exactly. My first time.
Exactly. So I was like, "All right, sure." And so, you know, like that I think it loosened me up. I mean, I was 15, you know, and it's your parent. They're like, hey, come on, you know, it's okay. If you're telling your kid and it's one, it's not like you're doing anything. So I was like, all right, come on, Mom. So I did. And then I think it loosened me up a little bit. I'm like on the red carpet talking with everyone, having a good time. I see the movie, meets awesome celebrities at the after party. Like, I met Ken Jeong, I met Tyler, the Creator, I met Johnny Knoxville, like so many people I looked up to. I was like, it was crazy. And then, because it was an after party, they had Tyler, the Creator performing, and then who I loved. And then they also had Kid Cudi performing because of his song. And he had invited the cast on stage, all of us. So me, Thomas, Oliver, JB, Kirby, Alexis, me, Nick, obviously. And he wanted all of us to do another shot of whiskey. And I was like, oh, all right. And so I remember this because this was funny. So he's coming down, pouring shots for everybody. I also don't know etiquette at the time of drinking. So I'm so excited too. Kid Cudi gets to me, pours mine, and then he goes to Nick, and I'm like, I look at it, and I take it. I'm like, and I look at everyone else, and then he starts cheersing. And I actually tell JB, I'm like, hey JB, can I have a little more of yours? I didn't realize we weren't supposed to drink it yet. And so he gives me like a little bit. And then I'm like,
here's less than a shot.
Exactly. I got it, and I went. And I was like, oh fuck, I should have waited, you know?
Yeah.
But then, like, we took shots with Kid Cudi on stage, and like we're partying with him, and like, I don't know, to me that's wild. And like Thomas did some stage diving. We're just up on stage dancing, and I mean, I'm a 14-year-old kid. I probably looked a little corny or whatever, but dude, I was having fun. You know, I was having a blast.
I don't think you could look corny if you're hanging out with Kid Cudi. Like being on the outside, there's no chance.
Damn, you know what? I'm gonna start telling people that. I'd be like, yeah, right, dude. I hung out with Kid Cudi. No way it was corny.
I'd say, did you hang out with Kid Cudi? No, you're the corny one.
Exactly.
Right? Literally, that's literally what I would do. Just quickly, because like, I mean, she's like a 10, and I liked her in other movies too, like Pitch Perfect and stuff. Alexis, did you have any interaction with her?
Yeah. You know what? So, funny enough, before the movie, we did another interview actually probably a couple months ago, and I had not spoken to her, man, in years. I mean, obviously since the show. But she was so nice. She was like, "Oh my God, Brady! Like it's so nice to see you again." Like, she was so nice. I know I'm not sure if she's totally pursuing acting now. I think she might be doing some other stuff. But I was like, "Oh man!" Like, she was someone who was like, "Wow, that's really down to earth, really genuine." Like, it felt really nice to for it to feel so real. You know, it wasn't fake. It was super genuine.
That makes it better when because like she had a big part in the movie, and obviously like she's a good looking woman. So it's like not that you wouldn't expect her to be nice, but you'd be like, there is like sometimes you have like the snootiness of someone like that, but that's awesome that it's the exact opposite.
Exactly. No, she was incredibly nice since the last time I talked to her. But before then, like while shooting, people always ask me because I had the scene where I have to film her getting undressed. That was
oh yeah, I forgot about that.
So that was very technical. Like obviously, she had a shirt when I was there. But people always think like, oh no way, like were you really there? And I was like, dude, I was 14 and it was a studio. There's no way they'd showcase nudity to a minor.
Yeah, it's fair.
But even shooting that scene, she was like so cool about it. She was funny and she did some wild lines with us, and professional and talented.
That's awesome. You talk about like technical and like acting like you were filming, but it wasn't you, whatever. Dax Flame. Can we get into that guy? I've watched him on YouTube since I was little.
So did I.
Too. Okay. Is he real? Is it a persona? Like the I don't even know, awkwardness, just everything about him. There's no way is that real, or is he playing it up?
I don't know him well enough to really say, but
Right.
same thing. I watched his YouTube videos. He was kind of like a YouTube legend in like
he was
7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
And so I knew of him. I actually, weird enough, is I didn't interact with him on set either a lot.
True.
He wasn't on set a lot because I know he was the filmer, but they had the cinematographer filming.
Right.
So he really wasn't on set a lot, at least from my memory. But every time
he's only at the beginning and at the end, I think, is really when you see him.
And I wasn't even there for those times. Like the only time I would have seen him would have been that first day.
Right.
But him as a person, from what I think, it's probably played up a little bit for a bit, but I think he's himself. You know, he's Dax Flame. He's just being him, and then people exaggerate a little bit for content. You know, and
I mean, this if it's a bit of a bit, this is the longest ongoing bit of all time. It's been like 20 years almost.
I know.
Being on YouTube.
I think his bit is like the awkward, socially awkward type stuff. You know, like uncomfortable cringe where you're like, oh, I don't want to watch, but I have to. You know?
I went back to I started watching some of his videos again recently, and there was one video that he just posted. So he explains his whole story about something, and then cuts, and then the end of the movie or the video goes, actually, you know what? Everything I just said, like I filmed that a few months ago. That was actually a lie. But it's like he didn't have to do that, but it was all in the same video. So people are commenting, goes, "There's no way this guy's real."
Dude, no, exactly. That's why I'm like, I have to think it's a bit because I think the same thing. There's no way that it's real. Like, I think he plays it up a little bit. Like, he's smart, especially like I've seen his Project X TikToks, and you know, people just aren't that awkward, and I think he plays into it because he knows people are gonna love the cringe.
Right. Yeah. He I don't know how like caught up you are, but I follow him on TikTok, and he, as of March 1st, he doesn't talk about Project X or 21 Jump Street anymore. But then I just watched one where he mentions it.
Exactly. He was. I follow him on TikTok too, so I see this, and he had just had someone. He's like, "Can you guess what movies I'm in, and I'll give you $10."
Yeah.
But I think they actually did guess, and I think he was actually a little surprised.
Well, I mean, those are big movies. Obviously, Project X, and then 21 Jump Street was a massive movie. It was right around the same time. I think there was a year apart between them. But in the one he posted, it since March 1st, he says them in the video, but they're beeped out. But you know what he's saying, so it just makes it that much funnier. I don't know what it is.
I have not seen that. That's funny though. Yeah, he's like, I'm not really talking about it because it's beeped out. Oh my god, interesting.
Yeah, no, that's funny that you wonder the same thing, like how real it is, because like as like an outsider who's never met him, obviously, like I always have wondered that, like since I was a kid, like those Superman videos of him when he was gonna go to school dressed as Superman and his grandma pushed him in the pool, or he pushed his grandma in the pool, something like that. Like that is one interesting guy.
I know it's not normal content. It's definitely something that like you want to keep watching because you're like, this is just so different and so out there. Like
he's playing the long game, that's for sure.
Yeah. Oh no. And honestly, I think TikTok, I feel like it's easy to go viral, but I think he's consistently hitting virality with some of these videos, you know, which I know we'll get into it, but could potentially help future stuff.
Right. Yo, actually, let's get into that now, because this happened a couple of weeks ago. And when you and I talked about, Project X Dose. It's not Project X2, but people are saying it Project X Dose. So I saw a video because I've followed Jonathan and Oliver since I started the podcast, because those two are two I also really like to get on. And I saw Oliver post his video, or actually I saw on TikTok first, and it was him reciting the "What up, my lovely females? It's your boy Costa." And I was like, what the fuck? So I thought maybe it was like an older thing that he had done a few years ago. And then I was like, maybe not. And I saw it again, and I saw another part of it. I was like, okay. So I searched it up, which actually is really hard to find just by searching up Project X Dose, by the way.
I know.
Maybe it's better now that it's been out for a few weeks, but it's a video of Oliver trying to get Project X2 made. He chases down Thomas. He's apparently going to insane asylum to get Jonathan out. He tries to go talk to Todd Phillip. So what do you know about this Project X dose? Because he follows this account on Instagram only follows a certain amount of people, and it's the main people from the cast, including you and Nick, Kirby, Alexis, Thomas, Jonathan. So
Dax, yep.
Dax. There's no way you don't know anything.
So honestly, I don't know anything. I'm not kidding.
Really?
But I can tell you what I think.
Okay.
I watched his video. I know we were a part of the original cast, and I know that they're always so nice, but it felt nice that they also followed us because everyone wants to be included, and having that, inclusion felt nice, honestly, just from like a personal standpoint. It's like, oh, cool. Like, they're still thinking about it. But I personally don't know anything. I've met with Jonathan just a couple times just to like have lunch over the years, and just talk about stuff and ask him about this. Like I said, back in like 2017, he had some speculations. And now like, he's also being a producer, so I think maybe he knows even more now about why or why not things come to fruition or not. But like what I do know and think, this is all speculation from me too, because I haven't heard anything. I legit, I mean, I haven't talked to them. They just followed me on the thing, and that's all I know. I haven't talked to any of them like they've talked to each other. Hopefully they're planning something cool. Here's what I think. So obviously, I think, Oliver, he scripted this thing. He like tried to make it nice. Thomas was in on it. Because I feel like he can't just get on a studio. Like,
that's true. Yeah, it's not like he could just walk on. Like, I know obviously he's been in movies, but they don't just let you walk on to the studio.
So Thomas had to have had like something. But now what gets interesting is I'm like, did they have a meeting actually with Todd Phillips, and then like they were like joking that he wasn't there? Like, I feel like they can't just walk in. Maybe he did it. Holy crap! If he did, man, props to Oliver. If he really did, because it does seem like it. Like he seems a little kind of like, we're just doing it. So I don't know. It obviously they're talking. Like, they met up with Nima, the director. All of them sat down and talked about it. I don't know what they talked about. I'd like to know, just like you. Me and Nick are messaging on Instagram like, yo, dude, what's up? What are they doing? Nick's like, dude, we got to chat. We got to sit down with all of them too. I'm like, I know we do.
Yeah. Well, I see you guys playing it up too. I saw Nick share the jacket thing, and then you talked about it. Yeah.
You know what? It's really like coming. It's going a little viral. So back in the day, I didn't. Now I'm like, you know what? If something's here, I'm just gonna play on it a little bit. If it's nothing, it's nothing. Whatever. But whatever. This is my card. I'm gonna play it.
Right. When he keeps trying to find Miles Teller, I showed, because my mom's a big Miles Teller fan, and obviously she saw the movie because she brought me to it. So I showed her the video, and when they kept trying to find him, I'm like, okay, so it's happened now 2 different times in the video. He's just not there, so obviously he's not going to be in it. They're just going to keep playing it up, and then all of a sudden he's in it. I'm like, what the hell? So that was pretty cool that Miles was part of it.
So I couldn't. Okay, I was going to get into that. I couldn't tell if that was, man, Miles Teller's a great actor. I was like, that was a little dickish.
Right.
I was like, kind of a dick.
Right.
But I was like, there's no way that was real. I don't know. So that had to have been a bit too. Yeah. And so if I think Miles Teller's in on it, that's a whole nother thing. Now, I do know at the end of the video, they go into this thing where they're like, no, it's not going to be a movie. It's going to be a real Project X party at Miles Teller's house. So I don't know what the part 2 of the video is going to be. Obviously they're planning something. I don't know anything, but like, something is in the works.
Have you not messaged Oliver and go, dude, what the fuck?
Dude, I don't know. Okay, no, I haven't. Just because I'm like, I don't know. I guess I could with Nick, but it just, so personally for me, it comes down to like a more personal thing. Like, I don't want to. It's happened in just from what I've seen as a kid growing up, going back to like some of these kids. I don't want to coattail on their success and their plans. I know I was in the movie, but I don't want to be like, yeah, include me, Oliver, include, I'm like, if I'm a part of it, that's great. I'd love to be. And if not, whatever, like, I don't want to chase them to be included. If they want to include me, I'm open,
Right. I mean, I definitely feel like you're going to be included on whatever it is, seeing as they got you guys, they follow you guys.
I know. I just do.
You're being humble. You're being too humble about it.
I know.
They're definitely,
I say too, me and Nick say all the times, I mean, they're very popular, but like over the course of the years, as I mean, I don't know, it's hard to say that, but like we've had some funny like meme accounts like post funny things about the security guards, like, oh, should have had security, these security guards should have been there, and I think it's funny, like we've kind of kept in the mainstream as like a meme a little bit, And so I think, you know, people, we have a little bit of clout because we, you know, people know who we are, and we've kind of held our own characters a little bit. So I guess we could not be included, but we'll see. We'll see.
I don't know if these two there's a connection between the two, but Jonathan had shared something a few weeks ago, an article about a Project X2, but a female lead, or female, like the three of them would be females doing it, and he seemed actually against it, showing that, because he showed this the stats of basically male driven comedies in the early 2000s or early 2010s, besides Bridesmaids, because that one was huge, but obviously it was a female cast. So he basically was against it being a reboot version, but with a female cast. So would you have any idea if those two are connected? Because that's a weird timing that came out about them, and then all of a sudden Oliver comes out with this video.
No, that's very inquisitive. I had the same idea. I know it was a reporter, because I started following him too, and I saw that. I mean, I was like, what? And I guess the reporter's name was Jeff Snyder or something, and he has this whole thing. And he was coming out with that report that Project X was going to have a female-led cast. And I asked Jonathan about it. He told me the same thing. Like, their studios might be trying to go that direction because, you know, that's very politically correct and this and that, and it's a safe way, but it's not, as you said, and as Jonathan would say, it's not the right way to just, you know, be true to the audience. You know, people want it's a lot of guys who are into this raunchy stuff. Females are not gonna like go see these raunchy things. I think Bridesmaids was the example, but it also wasn't raunchy. It was just funny and comical. You know, it is very interesting that they came out around the same time. I don't know if like that came out right away and then Oliver was like, I gotta make something, because I know it was like right short after, but it was very short after. So I don't know if they're connected. Dude, I wish I knew.
And it's not even like being like, it's not a sexist thing, but like for me, I'm a big fan of what's it called, the Ocean's movies, and I actually loved the Ocean's 8 with all the female like cast. I love that. Yeah, but then you look at like the Ghostbusters with Melissa McCarthy. That movie was not good, and it's like, don't try to make a movie and take an idea and make it female just for the sake of making it female.
Yeah,
if it doesn't work, that doesn't work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it has to have some like purpose, or it has to have some
which the Ocean one did. Like Sandra Bullock's character was George Clooney's character's sister, and then she made her own little group, and it worked. Yeah, and maybe I'm sounding like I'm contradicting myself, but like it just, a lot of them don't seem to work. Like there was one a few years ago, I can't remember the name of it now, but it was basically Superbad, but female. I can't remember what it's called.
Cock Blockers.
No. I actually loved that movie. That was that's a great movie. Yeah. What the hell is it called? I can't remember. It was just two of them. It's like super bad.
I don't know. I'm just trying to think of all those like little teen, you know.
I think it's like Kevin Smith's daughter, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. Harley Quinn. Maybe. I can't remember. Anyways, it didn't work the same.
No, it doesn't. I think you said it right. Like, it has to make sense. It has to have the motivation. Like, you can't just do it just for the sake of doing it.
No, and like Jonathan showing the stats about it really shows like why it doesn't work, and it normally.
And he's a producer, and like
right, yeah.
He knows certain things, and he knows how studios are thinking, and I think he's got great insight as to like why that may not be a good idea. Right. I don't know personally. Like, I can tell you, like, I'm with you on that. Like, don't do it just for the sake of doing it. But as long as
just because it's 2024 doesn't mean you need to reboot a movie and make it a female.
I know, exactly.
And not that it wouldn't always, like, it doesn't always work. Because like I just said about Ocean's 8, like was great, but it's like, don't do it for the sake of doing it. Before I let you go, I want to get into a couple of other things. You were in an episode of American Horror Story. How was that?
I was. It was great at the time. It was my favorite TV show. And we filmed. It was the season finale to season 2, the Insane Asylum, and I was, thrilled to be on set. I was only on set for actually 1 day. It was just a quick filming, but I got to work with Sarah Paulson, legend.
Wow.
And that was an awesome time. But I remember just working with Sarah Paulson. She was very obviously very professional, but she's an actress, and maybe this was just the 1 day of set. But she was very in tune with like getting her lines. Like, she was at her chair and like reading her lines over and over again. And I remember watching her. Obviously, she had more lines than I only had like 3 lines. But it was interesting to see her work process, just like getting the lines. She was like, like cementing them in her head, like how she was going to say them. And it was really cool to just at least see that side of her, because I had loved American Horror Story, and now seeing it goes, like, knowing that that's her process is kind of interesting. Like, she just kind of nails the lines down in her head and then goes to set and says them.
Yeah, that's pretty cool that you were able to be in like that space to be able to watch and see how she does it, instead of just being someone like me just watching the final product.
No, I know. Like, I'm very lucky to have worked with her. I'm really glad that I got that. But so someone else too that I worked with, I think he's still doing it, was that child who I bullied in that show, is Nolan Gross. And he was really cool too. But I think he's doing some stuff now also.
Right. That's sweet. Another thing you were in was an episode of Saved by the Bell, the new one. Now, the show didn't last very long, but what was that like? Did you ever watch the show as a kid? I know it would be like a little bit too far back, like for like you and mine. Oh my God, wow, I just have a stroke. Our age, our age group. But like, did you ever watch the original?
I had probably seen episodes like at like Nick at Night, like as a kid, it would come on or something.
Right.
So like, I knew the show. I knew like and at the time too, it was really popular. Everyone had, I think Urban Outfitters was selling like the Kelly Kapowski shirt or whatever with her.
Oh, no way.
She really popular here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I knew of the show, and actually, this was right before the pandemic. I auditioned for it in probably like March, the first week of March, before like, the world shut down.
Wow.
And then when productions had started booting up again, this was later in September, like, 6 months later, they called me and were like, hey, you auditioned back in the earlier this year, like, do you still want to do it? I was like, yeah, let's do it. But it was honestly, like, this was right when productions were starting back up, and it was not the same because everyone was like COVID protocols. So like how they did it would be, all right, lighting would come in and light it, then everyone out of the room, then actors would come in and we'd block real quick, then everyone out, then they'd come in and set up the camera, then everyone out. Like, it was just not a normal process. It was extremely lengthy, very time consuming, and I know they moved away from it now, but it was definitely cool to be a part of.
Can you believe that that's next week-ish will be 4 years since that all started? Where did time go?
Dude, it feels like we lost 4 years. I mean, I'm like...
Seriously, like, I know obviously, like, I'm 27, I'm about to be 28, but I don't feel that this age. It's strange. And I have seen, like, people talk about that a lot of people feel like the age they were when COVID started. And I feel that.
So do I. I mean, I'm like... I know I'm 27, but I'm like, dude, I still feel like I'm like 23 and I have all this time. And then I'm like, oh my God, dude, 4 years just like went like that. And now,
nuts.
Now I guess we're kind of, we're back to normal now, but It's like, man, we'll never get that time back, which very interesting time. It's weird to think like we kind of lived through a period of history, like they're writing books, and our grandkids or our kids or our grandkids are going to be like, what was that like?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you mean when I got to sit home and play video games all day? It was unreal.
Yeah. Oh my God, I know. I mean, probably not the most productive, but I was in the same boat, Me and my friends, it's up till 3 a.m. Call of Duty.
Dude, that was literally a week before COVID started. Warzone had just came out. It could not have came out at the perfect time.
Oh my God, I know, man. And me and my buddies, we would do this funny thing in Call of Duty. We'd all play, and whoever was at the bottom of the leaderboard would we'd all be FaceTiming. Bottom of the leaderboard has to take a shot every game. So
no, that's great. I love that. I could tell my buddies about that one.
It was fun. Yeah, like, dude, if you don't have enough kills, you gotta bottoms up.
Yeah, see, actually, I was always bad. Like, if we play like Search or like Cyber Attack, because Cyber Attack had just came out. Yeah. There were some games where I'd just be the kid on the team with like a donut. I couldn't get a freaking kill. I'd have like 10 assists, but I couldn't get a kill. I couldn't finish one. So maybe I won't tell them, because I'll be the one drinking. I take that back.
Or just be like, yeah, fill up a whole vodka thing with water and be like, oh man, you
guys, yeah, exactly. Wow. Oh, you guys got me.
And then you're gonna go to the top. Then they're all gonna be losing. They're gonna be drunk. Oh wait, now I got 0 kills.
I remember. I think it was like, maybe it was today, because we're filming this March 10th. It was right around this the day Warzone came out. Me and my brother-in-law, we played our first game, and our first game we got a dub. And we're like, holy fuck, this is so easy. And then I don't think like for a month after that we could get another win. It just it went from 0 to 100 like that.
Because so many people got on, and it was like, oh my God, like it was bringing back, because I used to game in high school, like, and I felt like I was pretty good, and because of COVID I was like, all right, I'm gonna get back into it, and like it brought so many people back who like might have been pretty good or might have been not good. But
right, that was literally me. Like, I was like from COD 4 to like, I think it was Black Ops 3 was the last one I'd played. So there was like about an 8-year gap since I'd played a Call of Duty, and I was like, yeah, I'll try it. And this one was the remake of COD 4 or COD 4,
A Modern Warfare.
Yeah. So I'm like, and that was one of my favorite ones. I'm like, this is perfect time to get back into it because it got dumb when there's freaking jetpacks and all, and when it was all futuristic. No, I hated that shit. That was dust. But it got Then I was like, oh, I feel like I'm 12 again playing this. Like, except kids are like a lot better. The last thing I'll say about that, actually, it's funny. I was talking to my buddy about this other day. When we were kids, I remember if there was like someone really good, you're like, oh my God, dude, like you're the best, like a random guy you're playing against or playing like with. Now it's like, you're a piece of shit if you're good. Like if you're good, like people just roast you saying like, dude, go touch grass. Like, do you go outside? Like, it's weird how that dynamic.
You're sweaty.
Yeah. You're a sweat. Like, I don't know what happened. People used to admire those guys.
Dude, I know. And now I think too, a big thing is like, people want to just get on in game. And if they're like, getting demolished, they're like, I just want to play the game, dude. And like some people are too good. They're like, I'm not even getting out of my spawn. I guess it get a little annoying because I've been on the other end where I'm like, dude, I'm gonna rage quit. I'm not even doing anything. Like this guy's demolishing us, dude. It's not even fun at this point.
Right.
Fun for him, not fun for me.
Yeah, exactly. There was that one map, not Shipment. I can't remember what it's called. And it's like really, really small, and you could spawn kill because it was like a square with the what do they call it? The sea cans. And
was that not Shipment?
Maybe it was Shipment. I think it was. Yeah, maybe it was. I mix up that one and the boat one all the time. But yeah, with that one, if you're playing like domination or something, you could easily just spawn camp people because you know where all the spawns are.
Dude, I remember you're like left side over here. Oh, they respawned. Now I'm gonna just shoot through the wall.
Literally, not headbang. You what's it called?
Yeah, wallbang.
You just wallbang them, or you lock in where like your head's just holding on to something, so you're not moving.
You're like, I know their head's about to. As soon as they're spawned, they're right there.
Exactly.
But,
the last thing I'll ask you about, and then I'll let you go. I swear, I'll stop wasting your time.
No, dude, I love talking.
Hendershotmedia. Tell me about that.
Yeah, sure. So I'll tell you about it quickly. In the middle of the pandemic, and a little bit before, I was like kind of getting into like videography, photography. I would like make road trip videos like with my girlfriend's family and getting into like, oh, this is kind of fun. Like Casey Neistat was actually a huge inspiration to me. Like he was doing vlogs and I was like, oh man, I want to make like videos. Like I wasn't a vlogger, but I was like, I want to make videos. And so like I just started to make road trip things. And then finally I was like, you know what, I gotta start trying to do real stuff. And so I started Hendershotmedia. I did some small things here and there, real estate, small things. But what really helped me, and here's going full circle back to Project X, one of my best friends whose stepbrother was in Project X, now he works for a big company called Kid Cudi, which is like they rent trailers, and they're a really big production company here in LA and I guess everywhere. And he was in their marketing department, and he was like, hey, dude, like you could do events. Like, do you want to like video our event? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And from that one event, he's introduced me to like 4 other people who are in the industry. So like I've gone now to Brazil to film Netflix's BTS. It was for Framework. But it was for Netflix's To Doom event in Brazil. I got to work with Hendershotmedia. I've gotten to work with Terry Crews doing behind the scenes with him. I don't have it out yet. I got to post it. But he did a campaign last year for a thing. And so I got to do some BTS with Terry Crews. I've gotten to work on like a lot of movie promo, social media stuff. And it's been fun to kind of like have this other creative outlet. Now I've kind of done videography, and so hopefully in the future you might see, like directed by Brady Hender, and I'm trying to get into cinematography. So that's where we're going.
Yeah. So do you find yourself right now moving more towards behind the scenes versus on screen?
I loved doing behind the scenes for the last couple of years, and I don't even mind doing it now. I love to just be on set. It's really just being on set and seeing like the creatives work, and like now I'm thinking like kind of like a cinematographer and less like an actor. Like, oh, how are they lighting it? What kind of camera movements are they doing? What equipment are they using? And so when I'm BTS, you kind of get free roam, so I get to like just kind of walk around and see what they do. But I want to like eventually move to like director, writer, actor. I'm not so much of a writer yet, but like I'd love to like direct myself in something, and because I'm still acting, I'm still auditioning and waiting for the next project. But I'm trying to kind of pursue all creative aspects of filmmaking.
100%. Yeah. The more you can learn, the better, because there's more opportunity. Have you ever been to Jonathan's ear about that? Because he moved from on screen to production.
So not entirely. I know we met probably like 3 years ago when I was like just getting started, and he knew I was getting into it. And I've thought about it, but you know what, Quinn, that's probably a good idea. And if I do, I'm gonna be like, dude, you know who told me to do it? Quinn Marr.
I commented how I commented on your thing. I did the same with him, but he just basically said no.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
Well, but no, I probably should talk to him and be like, hey, let me because he knows I kind of do this stuff, but actually that's probably a good idea to be in his ear about it. Be like, hey, dude, by the way, I make BTS content, and I'm trying to get in the camera department because I know he's the producer. So
right.
Shoot, actually, man, you just gave me a good idea.
Well, I don't know, just to me, because that's like someone that you have a small relationship with, right?
You're right.
Yeah, because and
totally
he's been in. He's obviously he started being in it. It seemed like at least 10 years now. I feel like it was like right after Project X. He did one other movie that like was big-ish, and then after that, it seemed like he just moved behind the scenes.
Yeah, he definitely wanted to like work more on the production side and kind of like the producing and seeing like how films are made, and let's make them fun, and like how do we make it so that we get the right audience and all that. So he's definitely got the producer brain now.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, no, it seemed like he'd be a good one. Okay, so I'll let you go now, but do you have anything you want to promote? Any of your socials you want people following you? The floor is yours. Any of that, let me know.
Yeah, please. My Instagram is just Brady Hender. I really don't even post that much, but if you want to follow me, follow me. If you want to see any of my camera and filmmaking journey, that's going to be on @Hendershotmedia on Instagram and YouTube. Hopefully we'll see some directed by Brady Hender soon, and that'll be my cinematography journey. But in the meantime, dude, Quinn, thank you so much for having me, dude. Honestly, you blew me away, dude. That was a great interview. Thank you.
Yeah. No, but like, dude, honestly, I appreciate you like that. We're able to get a time and date to do this, and I was able to bang your ear for the last hour and a half and just ask you the silliest things that I always thought about either Project X, and then I was able to learn more about you and just ask questions. You know what I mean? I mean, that's what this whole show is about, obviously, being able to talk to people that helped shape my childhood. So yeah, no, Brady, thank you so much for coming on here.
No, thank you, Quinn. It really was an honor, man. It means a lot. Thank you.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
All right, Quinn. So should I let you sign off? Is this a real sign off?
No. This is how I sign off. I literally just say bye. I'm gonna have to come up with one. I think I'm about almost 20 episodes in. I'm gonna have to come up with one, but it's just literally me saying bye to my guest.
All right.
All right. See you later, Brady.
Later, man.
And that was the Quinn Marr Show.